Welcome to Big Blend Radio, where we celebrate variety and how it adds spice to quality of life. Welcome, everybody. It is our fourth Sunday Big Daily Blend show with Joey Stuckey. You know, Joey rocks. He is the music ambassador of Macon, Georgia, and he's getting ready to celebrate his annual Alive Day. He's going to tell you a little bit about it today. But because of Alive Day coming up, which is September 29th, we're going to be dedicating that day to Joey on Big Blend Radio. We're going to have musicians calling in with their special songs. We're going to have panel discussions, playlists, all kinds of good things to celebrate Joey. But today we're going to kick it all off, this celebration, talking about music that is inspirational. And so I want to kind of look at the difference between inspirational, motivational. What makes you tick with music? What makes you say, okay, I'm going to turn this day around, turn the frown upside down? Joey, welcome back. How are you?
I'm well, my friend. I hope you are.
Oh, doing good. And just thinking about talking about Alive Day makes me excited. Right before we were recording and talking about the plans for this day, I'm like, you're like creating unity through this Alive Day. So, everyone, if you go to joeystuckey.com, there's a whole section on the website about Alive Day, and you can look about more over the years, but he's always done, some kind of celebration, even during COVID. There's been things going on, but also live performances. But this year we're going around the world. We want everyone to be part of it. So we're doing it in a kind of a podcast format so people can listen in from anywhere in the world. So that is unity right there, Joey. I think that's pretty cool. We need global unity right now.
We do. And, we really need to realize, and it's easy to say, but it sounds simple. But it's really profound when you think that we're all just travelers on spaceship Earth. And, this is sure there are differences, but there are a lot of things that unite us. And those things sometimes get minimized or lost in the rat race. And so Alive Day really is about that. Part of what I wanted to do with the Alive Day Music Festival was to provide free entertainment so that anyone on any budget, they didn't have to have it, didn't have to pay us anything. There was no reason not to come out and enjoy a day of inspirational music. And it was really a chance for neighbors to get together and reconnect, and people that just to reconnect with their community. So we started the Alive Day concert series in 2017. We've kept it going in some form or fashion every single year since then. We've done 4 concert series, which is a whole day of music, and from like 2 to 10, something like that, 2 to 11. So we've done and then we've done during the COVID era, which was a couple of years really. We did it just like Facebook Live, and of course, as you mentioned, this year we're doing it internationally as a podcast, where we're playing music, we're talking to people, we're celebrating with people from around the world. So it's had some form of celebration ever since 2017. But of course, the original Alive Day concept came from my parents. And they, for those of you that don't know, I'm a blind brain tumor survivor. I had a number of health challenges and still do. I almost died a number of times as a child, and was just very, very sick. And what my parents did was, the doctors told my parents that I probably would not survive the brain tumor, or if I did, that I would never walk or talk. And I do both those things.
That's right.
And so, I'm not blaming the doctors for a bad prognosis. They were telling her, in their medical opinion, what they thought was going to happen. They were doing their best to prepare, the family for that. So they did the right thing. It's not that they said something wrong, but what my parents did was, it was a very stressful time. From the brain tumor surgery, I spent 45 days in ICU, really, really fighting for survival. And, but what my parents did was, instead of the brain tumor day, like where I had the tumor, instead of that being a day of anxiety or fear or depression or trauma, what they did was they turned it around, made it kind of like a second birthday, and said, no, this isn't the day that you almost died. This is the day that you survived. And so that's a very profound shift in attitude. And so every, from the time I was 2 years old until this very day, still, we celebrate a Live Day very quietly, with, a family dinner or something like that. But we do take a moment out of our life to say, I am grateful. And so, then, the brain tumor did leave me blind, left me with a number of other health challenges. And it also took my sight, but also my sense of smell. So I'm down 2 senses. So I protect the ones I have quite vigorously. But the important thing was in 2017, I started realizing that a Live Day could be so much more and could be a real day of, gratitude. Everybody can come together and think about what they're grateful for and to just celebrate through the most powerful force for positive change that I don't know of, which is music. And that's what I do. That's what I know how to do for people. So we, the festival cost us about 10 grand to put on. About 60% of that I raise through, some sponsors, and then bankroll the rest myself. And we don't make any profit from it. We just, and the people that perform are very carefully selected. Their music is not all like, it can be, the music they sing can be about anything they want to talk about. We don't control that, but they have to have the right, as an artist and as a person, they have to have the right spirit. And they have to really understand what the day's about. And, so I have been very fortunate to find so many community minded people. And we do pay the bands to perform, but it ain't much. It's just, it's just a little something to let them know we value their time. Certainly, they're certainly not being paid as much as they should. So, but anyway, yeah. So it's exciting. We've been doing it, and the mayor of my hometown actually proclaimed September 29th officially as Joey Stuckey a Live Day, and encourages the town to get together and celebrate and lift up their own lives on that day. So anyway, that's the whole thing.
I love it because it even during COVID, I think it's a huge thing. When you think about so much going on, there's wars, there's political drama, there's just a lot going on in the world. And, we've been through a lot too lately, Nancy and I have been through a lot, and we go like, there's hurricanes, there's all these disasters, and we go, well, we missed that one, Yeah. We sit there and go, all right, here we go. We get excited because, you kind of, there's a lot going on. There's wildfires. There's a lot going, like areas that we cover right now as we recording. There's friends getting ready to evacuate. There's a lot of stress. And I was like, oh, I'm so excited to talk to Joey today because we're talking about music that inspires. But it's really, to me, it's Dr. Feelgood, man. That's what music is. That is what Dr. Feelgood is. I mean, there's Dr. Feelgood, but then there's Dr. Feelgood. What I mean? So, and if you could have 2 Dr. Feelgoods all at the same time, well, now we're happy. I feel like George from Seinfeld. Anyway, can I have a sandwich at the same time as well? I don't know.
Absolutely.
I think, in the Live Day is really, Johnny Schaefer, him on the shows too. He's on the first Sunday. You're on the fourth Sunday. And, he created a gratitude group on Facebook. Yeah. And people post and I'm terrible at it. And then I go, and actually when you're feeling the lowest is when you should be doing that. Like Willie Nelson always says, the day he started counting his blessings is when his whole life turned around.
Yeah.
And, he's gone through all kinds and he's still alive. I mean,
sure.
He did a lot of alcohol, a lot of other things. And, but I mean, he's definitely one of our most iconic musicians in America and songwriters.
He's one of the greatest songwriters. I mean, he's an incredible songwriter.
I think as a songwriter, he's him and Bob Dylan and even Jim Morrison. Thank you very much. Is at the top of the list there. And especially words and, Lucas Nelson is not far behind him. At all. Lucas, his son, and Micah. I love Micah too. Particle Kid. But honestly, the music thing really it's unity. And that's what I was excited about this podcast because I'm like, whoa, I can call on all my buddies overseas and see what, who's going to come on, So who knows yet, everybody? We're going to make it work. That's all I can say. We're going to make it work and it's going to be awesome. But I love that because it's spontaneous, it's like, ooh, let's get together and feel good and celebrate being alive. everybody's dealing with something somewhere. And if you're not
Absolutely.
dealing with something at that time, that means you got more to give.
Well, it's true. I mean, we a friend of mine and I, who but this friend will be on the Live Day show. It's my buddy Tom Rule, and he and I have been
He's
making music
awesome.
together. Oh, he is, and we've been making music together for a long time, and have a feel great joy by being in each other's company. And we did a convocation for Wesleyan College here, and it was a music and conversation that we did, and we called it "We're All Broken, Get Over It." And
Love that.
and so everybody's got something. Everybody has some
Except for
barrier,
me and my monkey.
except for me and my monkey. Yes, get the Beatles involved. But everybody's got something that they have that is a challenge, and and actually I don't like the bad times, but that being said, as long as I can grow and learn and come out of the bad times a wiser, better person, then I see their value. And and what's interesting about we talked about a Live Day is affirmational, certainly, but interestingly, even the sad songs can make you feel better. So
I'm glad you said that, because I was going to ask you that, because
yeah,
sometimes you have to go. It's so okay. There's a lot of things you can do to numb yourself through a situation, right?
yeah,
And you can allow yourself that amount, but you don't want to go. Don't take that on as a pattern, and it can.
correct.
But
Habits are
so
easy to form and hard to break.
yeah. So when you go, if you're feeling bad, and you might as well you need to face it. You have
Yes,
to deal with the
absolutely.
emotion. That's the point.
Absolutely.
And not numb it with other things. And maybe you need that along the way, who knows, but let it be temporary. So when you go low with music, that's what the blues is about. I mean, to me, that's the thing. I've got, like, when we talk about inspirational music, mine is not all kumbaya, man. Not
No,
at all.
absolutely not.
There ain't
Absolutely
no,
not.
I mean, no, it isn't. And some of it is like, all right, you're going to face it. You're going to get it out of your system so you can move over it quicker. You have to hug the monster. They say just ride right through it. You go through it, just get through it. And to me, it's quicker to face it, feel it, and then go, all right, now let's party.
Well, I mean, you've got sort of three different kind of things that you, in my mind, that are actually affirmational in the sense that they're therapeutic. I mean, you've got songs about being happy and joyful. Those are great, and songs that are celebratory. Okay, those are fantastic. Then you've got songs that make you feel determined to overcome. So that's another sort of affirmational. And then you've got songs that are expressing the pain and that are sad. And that's very cathartic and affirmational in its own way. And interestingly, I've talked to a lot of, I've been in the media business since I was in my 20s. I've done podcasts, radio shows, TV shows, print, media. I've been a journalist in the realm of music for a long, long time. And my goal has always been to support artists. And I've spoken to a lot of artists, from beginners to seasoned professionals. And it's interesting that the real positive music, that's very uplifting, kind of stuff, is actually harder to write. It's harder to define joy in a way that's not trite. And it actually takes more skill and more talent, in my mind, to write a happy song that's not, like bubblegum preschool kind of stuff. So it's interesting. It seems that we, as human beings, need to tap into some of those more painful memories and express those. That is more powerful for us at times than the happy, everything's great kind of stuff. And I'm a very affirmational, positive person. I mean, I did, just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. I mean, I haven't gone to the eye doctor for 40 years because I'm blind. My eyesight can't get worse, kind of thing. So what's the point of going to a doctor? Can you see this? No. Can you see this? No. Can you see this? No. Like, what's the point? And my medical team, and I have a medical team that helps me manage my sort of chronic issues from brain tumor. We're all like, they all said, yeah, that makes total sense. Like, no point you go to the eye doctor. Anyway, I started having headaches. And they're like, well, you should go to the eye doctor. And turns out blind people can get glaucoma. Who knew? So,
holy cow.
Yeah, so I have glaucoma, which isn't going to affect my eyesight. But glaucoma is something that I never understood. And basically, it's blood pressure. It's like blood pressure, but it's for your eyes. And, it can result in headaches, and it can result in, like, having to actually, in extreme cases, you can have to have your eyes removed because they're so painful, blah, blah. And when I found that out, I was like, oh, dear God. I don't, I've got enough problems. I don't want to have my eyes surgically removed. But my sense of humor is such that I've told everybody about it and said, look, if that ever has to happen to me, and my doctor says that it's not, but if it did, I would get 2 eye patches, a stuffed parrot, and a fake wooden leg, and make people just deal with me.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, listen, there's a song about this, Legalize Marijuana. Peter Tosh. They say it cures glaucoma.
So I mean, yeah, absolutely, yes. That's our drug PSA for the podcast. But I mean, like, my point is that I have a bit of a gallows sense of humor because it's a wonderful coping mechanism. It's like it's part of the Swiss Army knife of coping. Now, you don't want to rely only on that. So you have that kind of like dark humor that can kind of get you. And then you have the great joy I feel every day to wake up and be able to hear the birds chirping outside. I cannot tell you what joy that brings to my heart to hear those little guys tweet, and the great joy of my cat kissing me in the face in the morning, and, all these little things. So there's so many different types of joy and different types of affirmation. And we should not think that it's just one size fits all affirmation. Affirmation can take so many different forms, because what it really means is that things can be wonderful or things can be very difficult, but you are joyfully alive and part of the human experience.
Yeah, and it's how you deal with it. I mean, Nancy and I are terrible at funerals. We get the giggles, and that's a form of...
Well, that's because you're a sick woman, but
Yeah, I know, but it's because we're dealing with stress in a way. That's our output. That's our way of doing it. But I do want to say that one of my songs for the music playlist that we've got, everyone look at the link in the episode notes. We've always put music lists together, playlists, and Joey's got songs, and I'm adding in there 3 Little Birds from Bob Marley.
Yeah.
I'm apparently on that kick right now.
Birds.
3.
Tree.
Come on now.
That's how he says it. 3 little birds.
3 little birds.
Yeah. I'm just giving you a hard time.
I know. I'm just like, but it's all right. But that's the thing. It's humor goes a long way. I mean, don't you think Weird Al is part of it? Like he was the one who started making fun of everybody in music.
Oh yeah. You gotta laugh. I mean, laughter and music are like the 2 bombs. I mean, they are just so powerful when it comes to healing.
Speaking of that. Okay. So Jimmy Fallon is actually quite an accomplished musician.
He is.
Right?
Yeah.
He is. Do you know, I just saw this reel and I'm still giggling, but it's absolutely, they're good. Miley Cyrus dressed up as Dolly Parton and he was dressed up as Kenny Rogers.
Oh my gosh.
And they sang Island in the Stream. Islands
nice.
In the Stream. Is it Islands or Island in the Stream? I don't know.
I think it's
Island.
Yeah.
Island. Okay. Or it could be 3 with 3 trees. Who knows?
Yeah.
But they dressed up. I mean, we never see late night shows or anything. Like, our world is so different.
Yeah.
But it's rare that we actually see real TV and go, oh yeah. But I mean, that it was so hysterical, but so good, And so when you see things like that, it's like if we need to lift ourselves up, like Nancy and I, in the humor side, we have 2 songs that we go to automatically just to go, okay, well, this stuff isn't going well right now. And, you know that I have at times some interesting words that I use. And there's two songs that I can't even say on the show, but, they're, they're really good songs. They're just really good. Look up the Particle Kid, and all I know is he talks about a bull. So you can type in Particle Kid bull, and then Dennis Leary.
Will that get you on some kind of list if you type that in?
No, it's fine, but it's all about, it's like he's venting for you.
Okay, understood.
And then Dennis Leary, it's kind of a political kind of thing. I think more politically charged than what we were, it's like if someone really bugs you, he's venting for you. Dennis Leary has a fantastic
Dennis
song.
Fantastic. Oh, I didn't know he did a song, but yeah, I love.
Oh, he's a
Leary,
great musician. Oh my God. Oh yes, I love Dennis Leary. I think he's hysterical too.
He's lots of fun. Well, one of my songs that made it onto the list, I did give you the more standard, on my list, the more standard affirmational songs that you might expect. But I also put Eminem on there, and that's affirmational in a sense of being determined to make it against the odds. And then there's Born This Way by Lady Gaga, because I think that we all should be proud of who we are, even if other people can't understand us. That's okay. They don't have to. You're the one that gives yourself joy. You're the one that is important. If you are happy with you, then the rest, it doesn't really matter. It's hard to accept that sometimes, but being comfortable in your own skin is really important. But one of the songs that I really treasure, that's a lot of fun to sing, especially when things are a little bleak, is Always Look on the Bright Side of Life, Monty Python, Eric Idle. So that's on my list.
You always put Monty Python in wherever you can on these lists. I'm with you.
I was exposed to Monty Python early as a child, and my parents really, basically said, we're going to raise him right, and we don't have to worry about monitoring what he watches, because we have instilled in him values and concepts that will guide him well. So they never really had any restrictions on TV as to what I could watch or not watch. And so I discovered Python at a pretty early age, and was twisted front by it, and gladly so. But yeah, my other thing besides music is stand-up comedy or funny shows. I mean, those are my things that I love to see and love to go to. I've seen Jim Jeffries, Louis Black.
You went to see Louis Black?
Yeah.
I love him. Nancy, you see, let them do the ranting. But
absolutely.
I also think
his rants
we need
are
to
so
let
great.
we need to let people also, comedians, be able to have freedom of speech. It's the same thing as freedom of speech is also included in music, in my way. And if you don't like the song, then don't. And
it's real simple. If you don't like it, don't listen. It's that simple. But I think what I would say is, if you want to put a label on the record to say this record contains explicit lyrics, so then I don't have a problem with that.
Or trigger warnings for people too, because if something about suicide or something like that,
right. So I think that's fine. But let the marketplace decide what gets, have freedom of speech. And if it's too extreme or too crazy or whatever, then the marketplace is going to decide that. I mean, just, it's simple. If you don't like hip hop, don't listen to it. If you don't like jazz, don't listen to it. And I always give things at least two chances. The first chance, I give it to shatter whatever preconceived notions I had going in, and then the second time, once that sort of bubble has been burst, then I go and listen a second time. Now that I've got all my preconceived notions of what the music is or isn't, or what the comedy is or isn't, then I go back and see if I enjoy it the second time. And if I don't enjoy it the second time, I usually go, okay, this is not for me. I'll move on. But I can say that when you grow up listening to U2 with like the War album, the Unforgettable Fire, the Joshua Tree, those three records were very similar. And then all of a sudden here comes, and even Rattle and Hum. But then here comes Achtung Baby, which is a radical departure for them with all these new sounds. And when I first heard it, I was like, this doesn't sound like U2. And then I listened to it again and said, oh, it's genius. It doesn't sound like U2 because they've evolved. And so, I always try to give whatever I'm listening to at least 2 chances. Sometimes I'll even give it a 3rd chance. I've always felt like, because of all the acclaim, I've always like felt like I was like missing something with Lou Reed. Like, I never liked Lou Reed. I never liked Velvet Underground. I never liked Lou Reed. I listened to it and go, oh God, these guys can't sing. They can't play. I like the and I've always been just like so turned off by it. But I felt like, and this is peer pressure, I felt like I should like it because it's like, oh, they're so seminal in the music business. And finally, after I'd gotten all my sort of preconceived notions about what Lou Reed was and what he wasn't, I realized he's a terrible musician that can't really sing. But once I got past that and said, okay, Lou Reed's not a musician's musician, I was able to, at least, while I still don't enjoy listening to it, I get it. Like, I understand now what the appeal is, and I understand who he is, and, I can see the value in it. While it's still not my cup of tea, I will say that if you haven't given Lou Reed a chance in a while, the album that has Take a Walk on the Wild Side and some stuff like that was produced by David Bowie, is probably his best work. But there's a live album, and I think it's just called, I'm pretty sure it's called Live in Italy, and his backup band is fantastic, and he's just whatever. But the energy between the crowd and the band, and there's just something magical there. So if you haven't given Lou Reed a chance in a while, you might want to check that out. It was the same thing with Leonard Cohen. I mean, Leonard Cohen's a brilliant songwriter, but a singer he ain't. And I gave that a second chance when Bono's a great human being, and I really like him. I think he's a good man. I think he tries to be a good man, but a humble man he's not. He realizes he's one of the biggest rock stars in the world and one of the biggest bands in the world. And he said in an interview that Leonard Cohen was the best live show he'd ever seen. And so I thought, okay, I'm missing something. Let me give this a second chance. And so what I did was, instead of listening to the studio records, I went and got a Leonard Cohen album, which is fantastic, called Live in London. And it's incredible. And then I realized, like, okay, I was expecting, singing in the sense that I like to hear it, like a very technically precise, emotive Tool. That's not what he does. And it's totally fine that he doesn't do that, because what he does has such a sense of gravitas and is so interesting, but it's not really singing. So anyway, yeah, my point is, like, there's so many amazing things out there that once my overriding point is there's so much amazing things out there that once we get rid of our preconceived notions as to what something should be or shouldn't be, there's a lot more amazing stuff to discover. And affirmation is one of those things where it's not just happy, feel good party music. It's lots of other things. It's the blues. It's all these other things that can be affirmational too.
Yeah. It's, when I look at music inspirational music, it is about where it's like, it is, I go to songs according to mood. We had a happy hour show last month. Or is it airing this month? Anyway, we did recently a happy hour show.
Yeah, I've been on those.
Yeah, you've been on those and had fun on them, and you'll get back on one soon, I know.
Yeah.
And one of the guests was Cheryl Lutjen, and she wrote a book, Love Earth Now, and she's all about climate change and how to handle the stress of it if you are, scared of it and paranoid about every little thing you do, and because it is scary what we're doing.
Oh, very scary. Very scary.
And she's got kids, and she was an environmental lawyer and geologist, so she understands, when you see too much sometimes. I'm just saying.
Right.
And Nancy and I've done that with things like, the Dakota Access Pipeline, we started getting involved in that in the middle before even the big people got involved. It was, I think, Amy from Democracy Now! And us at one point. That was it. Nobody was covering it. She got arrested, and the guy we interviewed while it was happening, we interviewed him because the women, pregnant Native American women, were chaining themselves to these bulldozers because they were bulldozing their ancestral lands, burial grounds, their burial sites of their ancestors, their indigenous ancestors, which is insanely wrong.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
And I rarely get political, but when it's something like that or something for the environment and land that doesn't have a voice, I will use my voice.
Absolutely.
Period. And so, it was Labor Day weekend, and this gentleman, Cody Hall, he was part of the Red Warrior camp, calls. He says, please, will someone do this? You've done so many Native American shows, and especially on music. And, we've had some amazing, talk about some inspirational music right there. Because that goes deep. That's Native American music. Oh, we have to do a whole show on that, Joey. I think we need to do that in November.
I love it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I got some guests we can bring on too. Anyway, he called in. Nobody was covering this. And it's like, you know how things go down over holiday weekends. A lot of bills get, snuck in, politically, just saying. Anyway, so we're like, oh, we'll do a show right now. Absolutely. Because this is happening now. It was a live broadcast. He got arrested. And I just, at that point, realized how we got so incensed with this. So emotionally, to cover stuff like that, you see too much. We started getting involved in trying to look up who owned the oil that was under there. Really, it was Native American land, and they're going, there's water on top, so you own the water, not the land underneath. And so we started going, who's drilling? Then we found out every single major bank that we have in this country, we're the ones doing it, all with different shell corporations and shell names and whatever, all these, and Shell Oil too, by the way. Anyway, so they all had these different labels, and it was all stuff that when you start digging in and you see too much, it's depressing. And so she feels that, Cheryl, because she's seen so much. And then it's like, how do you live a life, right? And so she's on the Happy Hour show, and she's been on a couple shows, doing great. Happy Hour show, we're talking about music. And she goes, I have playlists according to how I'm feeling. And I thought this was really profound, but she did actually sound a little sad when we were talking. But she said she has playlists according to her emotion. And I really agree with this. There's songs that, like In Excess, I love the blues, right?
Sure.
And I know they ain't the blues, but there's a couple songs that I think Michael Hutchinson is one of the best singers out there. I know he's passed away.
Fantastic.
But he is.
Yeah.
And, there's a couple songs that they do that, man, I go through it. I'll go and listen, and it'll let me just, get it out, move on. And it goes all the way to, I'm going to listen to Salisbury Hill. That's got nothing to do with inspiration. Leonard Cohen, you were talking about him, and Hallelujah. That's an inspirational song, but it's deep and it makes you really think, right?
Yeah.
There's just, it's a weird thing to think of. Bill Withers, if you're going to talk about inspirational, I think he's I think we should go to soul and funk,
Yeah.
Just like the Temptations. Come on. What's the song World in Chaos? There's a song that the Temptations did that is just songs that actually deal with the subject matter sometimes too.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly right. Right.
And has a beat, but sometimes it could be really just a really super sad song to let you down so you can get it out, so you can move on up. You have to go down to go up. And the blues does that in so many ways, because the blues is also levitation music, man. The blues to me is everything. And I hear the blues and everything. And I even listened to, when I was growing up, like Simply Red was big, In Excess was big, Def Leppard and all of that, Pink Floyd and, Dire Straits. Now, Dire Straits I'll listen to some of their music because it gives you contemplation time. So like you could playlists according to this. So our playlist between Joey and I is all over it makes no sense, Joey.
Yeah.
You did some of but I think like Bill Withers, of course he did Lean on Me and everything, but he did Lovely Day and Sweet Winona. To me, Sweet Winona is one of my favorite songs on the planet. And it's got nothing to do with anything to do with inspiration, but if I listen to that, I chill out, man. I'm calm.
Yeah.
So what is that? Like, I
Well,
don't,
there's lots of interesting things to unpack in what you said, So, I mean, one of the things is that there's therapy in music, and
mm,
I do believe, and part of therapy is acknowledging how you feel. So, if you feel sad, you listen to a sad song. It actually has a positive effect on you because you've acknowledged that you feel sad, and that's the best way to deal with that. So, you get all the sad out, and then you're able to move through it. And but I do believe that in our society, the low level, there's been an increase of just this sort of low level of anxiety since COVID and everything, that makes life just a little tougher. And so we need to turn to these coping mechanisms that are so powerful and so positive. And by and large, I mean, basically free. I mean, you accessing music now is easier than it's ever been. You've got radio stations, terrestrial radio station, meaning AM, FM. You've got satellite radio. You've got internet radio. And you've got a lot of freemium, even like Pandora and different stuff like that. You've got a lot of these freemium services where you can listen for free, but you have to listen to ads. And then for very little money, compared to what you get out of it, you can have ad-free streaming or music on demand, and so I think that's pretty powerful. And then most of these services also have comedy albums on demand. Recently one of my great heroes in comedy, Bob Newhart, passed away, and
yeah.
Boy, some of his comedy albums are absolutely fantastic. So they're out there for people to listen to. But yeah, there's
George Carlin, everybody. Right now, we need some straight up.
Oh my gosh, George Carlin,
some straight up wisdom.
The king. I mean, yeah. George Carlin. I have often thought in the last 10 years or so, boy, where is George Carlin? He would be so welcome and so needed and so helpful at this time. But the climate crisis is real. It's something that is pretty easy to see in evidence. It's not something that it's easy to see that it's there and it's real. And that level of anxiety with the crisis and with our political leaders not really doing a whole lot about it. So there's that. There's the whole thing with COVID. We have seen what a real pandemic is, and we know that it can happen. It's not just a fanciful story. So there's lots of, and then there's financial crisis, there's health crisis, there's all these different things. There are wars.
And the immigration thing. Everyone's
absolutely.
The immigration thing. I'm going. If we don't fix climate change, you're going to really see immigration happen.
Oh, I know. And so that low level.
But let's not do politics.
No, we're not. We're not going to do politics. We're going to leave that to other people. But there's a low.
But there's music for that, and stop stealing musicians' songs for political campaigns.
Well, yeah. But there's there's a constant low level of anxiety. And music and comedy is like the two best ways I know to combat that. I mean, seriously, it really
and everyone should
really
sing
helps.
In the shower, sing in the car, do
absolutely.
The music.
Don't worry about what it sounds like. Who cares?
I'm terribly I know there's a level of playing too loud that you can't actually hear what you're playing. But I remember talking. You remember Ryan? Well, he's kicking butt everywhere. Ryan Bingham. Was an amazing kind of Americana artist, and he's on Yellowstone and all of that. And he plays slide it's like Derek Trucks and the Tedeschi Band. Now, if you watch that band, they have a little bit of everything. The big family band, and it feels good. Like Michael Franti, I wanted to tell you. You were talking about Born This Way. Michael Franti has one of my favorite songs. All the freaky people make the beauty of the world. And Nancy, I'll play that stuff and it's got a little rap and everything. And Nancy's all like, yeah, all right, let's go. And he's also got, a song that I wanted to add to the list, which, because Michael Franti he was angry with everything, right? Politics and how, people of different colors have been treated in our country and so many things. And then he realized he wasn't winning with anger.
Right.
So he turned it to love. And I mean, now he hosts yoga retreats in Bali and, he's
always
married
wanted to go to
and
Bali.
I know. Let's go. We could do a podcast in Bali.
I always worry about like getting too far from like the West because
now I would be
but like air condition
medically
and like having a good hospital nearby. Because if I get sick, I don't get more sick than because of the conditions I have. Like I don't get more sick than you do, but if I do get sick, it's just a lot harder on me.
You could go to South Africa. You could go to South Africa because they have excellent. In fact, they're the ones who performed the very first heart surgery.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So they are really good, and there's certain hospitals that are really good, and so you can go to South Africa and do that. But I wanted to tell you the song name. Man, we're all over the map on today's show, but it's cool. It's exciting. But you've got Michael Franti is the dude, but I found a song just for you. It's called "I'm Alive."
I love it.
Michael Franti, "I'm Alive." But I also really wanted to put in because some artists. I mean, I just almost want to say, listen to these artists, not just the song, individual
right.
Song.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Because some of them make you really feel good. And I encourage people to put a playlist together. What would you put on a playlist? You know what I mean? So I think on our Facebook group, we'll ask people to submit a song, but
that's a great idea.
Carole King, "I Feel the Earth Move," right? I
have that effect on everyone that I come in contact with. I make the earth move.
Yeah, and then Smash Mouth.
Blind people are really great.
Walking on the Sun.
You didn't know.
Mm-hmm. Oh, don't forget Joey also drives. I just want people to know that. Well, blind man driving. But that's inspiring.
It is. It's interesting you mentioned that because the hook of the song is "Loving You Like a Blind Man Driving," which we all know, which means that it's a terrible idea.
It's called recklessness.
But yeah, it's a bad idea. But interestingly, the video for it is it's a pretty silly concept. I mean, the video concept is that I can't make it. Like my transportation for a gig has fallen through. And I have to get to the gig because the show must go on. So I decide to go ahead and carjack a lady, take her car, and drive to the gig. And in the meantime, the police are chasing me all through town. And so, that's pretty affirmational in the sense that it's
because you're going to keep going.
Yeah, it's like, whatever it takes to live the life that I want to live, to do what I said I was going to do I want to do.
What do you mean you're not coming? I love the beginning.
What do you mean?
I'm like, what do you mean? What you talking like that, Joey?
Yeah, that was all improvised. We just man. We just had fun. And my favorite part is the fact that I was running around, not being able to see where I was going, and I was running down streets and stuff like that. And I thought I'm going to bust my face, but I didn't. And I was very proud I was more proud of that than anything else.
No, but that's the thing. That's the thing, is to push yourself through that limit. And I think music sometimes gives you that extra oomph. I have a question about, like, there's a lot of lyrics, and then there's the rhythm and the movement, right, of songs, of how it influences your physiology, actually.
Yeah.
Your heart, your soul physiology. So there's the song Baker Street, Jerry Rafferty, right? And when Baker Street opens up, da 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 da, boom, boom, like that opening, like there's certain opening lines on something where something's happening. But that song to me is almost like you opened a door and something new's coming in. And because it's it's just the pitch of it even is more in a uplifting, like, here we're coming, and then it calms down. Like, you're like, what? I thought something more was coming, right? And but that kind of sound when you're writing, do you write with that going, this is the sound, the pitch and then the certain instrumentation, if it's a horn, a sax, that kind of thing, and how, those certain notes. And I don't know what it is. Like I am so like addicted literally to really good slide guitar.
Yeah.
There's something about that because it will take you from the low to the high and back again and all around.
Yeah.
It's like, it, and really, I mean, the really good players are not all over the place with it. You know what I mean? They can
Oh, I
be,
know.
yeah. I mean, and you can play it and I can't, but I just am always like, there's something about that sound that it's like food, right? I love a good sweet and spicy something. Like I want the opposites to attract in my mouth, right? That makes me happy.
Yeah.
Well, certain pitches and sounds do that too. So it's not the attraction always to the lyrics, or it's a certain sound that does something. And I believe it does something with your chakras. I
Yeah,
really
I mean,
do.
it's interesting. I've got some lyrics that are absolute rubbish if you read them. But when you combine them with the melody and the rhythm, they work really well to create a certain feeling. And there are certainly keys of songs. I mean, you should choose the key of a song um, based on what it allows you to do with the melody or the instruments. And so, sometimes you get a little bit of a brighter sound. Like, for example, one time I was producing a band and they were using a capo on their guitar to change keys, which is, that's all fine and well. I mean, sometimes that's the only choice you have because you want a certain chord voicing. And chord voicing, by that, what I mean is the notes of the chord, a chord being two or more notes played simultaneously, the notes of the chord in a particular order. And if you're on the guitar, there are certain orders that, if maybe you can't get without a capo. Most people use capos to change keys because they don't know how to play the chords in other keys and they just know a few shapes. So that's what happens most of the time. But on occasion, you have to use a capo because you can't get the chord voicing you want without it. So, but I was producing a band and I said, look, this is a very energetic song. And you need to raise the key by a half step because that will force you to sing higher. And by you singing higher, you're going to, because that's not your comfort zone, that's going to give you more energy and more push and give the song a little bit of extra something. And that's what we need to do. So there are all kinds of devices, that you can use. And we certainly have plenty of science to show how music affects the brain, how by processing rhythms you actually grow more like brain matter. There's a lot of science to show that even just tapping, your fingers can increase synapses to control fine muscle, fine muscle memory and muscle controls. And there's lots of things that you react to physically that you don't react to emotionally. So like a good beat. People that the beat of a song can be really important, like whether you can dance to it or whether. And what's interesting about that is if you think about it, we talk about these tribal rhythms and these primitive man's early forays into music, which was an attempt to explain the unexplainable. We believe, based on history and science and research, that man's early foray into music was primarily the attempt to communicate with some form of God, whether that's nature or a divine being or whatever.
This is where the levitation comes in.
This is, most our early forays into music were typically trying to explain the universe as best we could and to communicate. So most of early we believe that most early music was sacred music, and by that I just mean something that's trying to describe the divine or the unknown. But my point is that there are physical responses. There's a mental response to music. There's an emotional response to music. There's a physical response to music. And everything in our world is cyclic. We understand that there are sleep patterns. There are all kinds of hibernation patterns. There's all these things. There are migratory patterns. And all these things have to do with cycles and the rhythm of our universe and how the planets move and all these things. And so, it's no surprise to me that music has that kind of sort of primal power to get right down to the core of who we are as beings of matter.
It is about levitation. You're lifting up. So inspiring, like we said, sometimes you have to go down to go up, it's true. But the levitation, that's what Willie, the drummer, Willie Kellogg, rest in peace, my good friend. He taught me so much. He was a drummer for the Flying Burrito Brothers and Moby Grape, and toured with Johnny Hooker, and was one of the first musicians to see the Rolling Stones go to San Diego, and wrote a review and say they're a bunch of pasty white ugly boys who can't play shit. That's what he did. Excuse my language, everyone, but that's what he did in the Reader, which is like the local rag out in San Diego. Like, it's all the musicians read it. It's like all the classifieds. It's like the paper, right? Every week. And boy, was he unpopular for that,
Sure.
And then he's the one we'd sit down and he would play hand drums and Sufi music. And he was like, it's a levitation. Then he'd go listen to the Sufi music, right? And the rhythms. And we'd listen to a lot of African music. And of course, that's, part of my life, and
right.
So, and it was all levitation. And if you listen to soul and blues, you still have to have that levitation. Now, the blues also gets down and dirty and sweaty and sexy, and
sure.
So does soul and funk. And that's also part of the release, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Sorry, but sex is a release, right? It feels
of course,
good.
absolutely.
Sex is natural. Sex is fun.
Thank you, George Michael. Yes, thank you, George Michael. My hero. By the way, one of the greatest singers ever to walk the earth.
He is an amazing, you know what? And he really, as a kid, I was listening to him and I thought Wham and everything he did was
Wham's fantastic.
Come on. Listen, some of the 80s, I don't know what was going on, but like some of it was crazy. And then like the 90s, there's but I think some of it's got to be fun. Like, come on, the safety dance. Come on. Don't you start giggling when you hear the safety dance?
Oh yeah.
Come
it's
on.
Fun.
And whip it. Come on.
We need that. Songs ever made. Yeah, but it's great.
You've got to listen to some of them, like "Come On, Irene" and "The Werewolf of London." Come
Dexy
on,
and the Midnight Runners. Yeah,
we need all that crazy stuff, but we need those downs. But the rhythm, going back to that, I think it is the levitation. It's that soul, and if it makes you move, if it makes you tap your toes, you're starting to come out of whatever funk it is. It's
Absolutely.
Inspiring you to move forward. That's what gospel music. I adore gospel music, and I don't care. I don't care. And when I say gospel, it's music that
that's
everyone's
a broad
trying to
umbrella.
It's I don't care if it's in India. I don't care where, if it's music that's trying to get you closer to God, it's the epitome of levitation, right?
Yeah.
And soul. And everybody's like, I'm going, and it's like, oh man, that like, if I'm going to have a big funeral, man, I want like the Temptations there or something. Like we're going to have a good time. I want like
I just want to be
Sam and Dave there or something. I want to party, dude. It's the music.
Awake. Yeah.
I don't want any of that. Nobody needs to look at me, man. Hell no. No, if I'm dead, I'm dead. You don't need to look at the worms can have it, but let's party and have some music to levitate to.
Yeah.
We got to go up.
Yeah.
We don't want to go down. Maybe we get isn't that funny that we put ourselves in the ground to go up? Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing? Maybe we should like shoot us up to space. Go on,
Elon
Musk.
That's what I want, but I'm not, I don't
would
have
you
the money
do
to
it?
be shot into space. I probably would be.
Would you do one of the space things, the spacewalkies? Would you do it?
I would, I think.
The one astronaut was playing her violin, I think it was, up in space. She was playing the theme to Star Wars or something. Like, I don't know, something up there.
That would be appropriate.
her hair was way up. It was super cool, you know. And I was like, man, I think George Clinton, everybody needs to hear like music like that.
P-Funk.
Just, man, the
Make my
Atomic
funk the
Dog.
P-Funk.
And
That's
we
right.
want the Atomic Dog, man.
Yeah.
And Bow Wow Wow. Okay, but then there's Snoop Dogg, right? So I'm sorry I went there, but
I like Snoop Dogg too.
I love Snoop Dogg. You know,
He was great at the Olympics. He really did a good job.
You know, I'm sorry, but the Olympic torch does look like a big joint. Are we back to drugs again? But music,
you are.
music is a good drug. That's the best drug.
Yeah.
There's
in the news. I want a new drug.
I want to. Oh, now doesn't he get you like? I'm sad that he's not singing anymore. But
Me too.
We're losing a lot of our amazing greats and
Linda Ronstadt.
Oh man, I know, man. I didn't realize about her Parkinson's, you know, but
it's
I
awesome.
wanted to ask you about River Deep Mountain High. That song to me is probably I don't think it can I don't know if you can redo that. I don't know if anyone can like I know Melissa Etheridge and Josh Stone have been able to do a little bit of Janis Joplin. But I don't know, man. It's
yeah, you know, it's interesting about that taking songs and I had a student of one of my voice students sing some Patsy Cline, and I'm like, oh, don't do that. It's so hard to compete with Patsy Cline. I mean, there's just certain people like that are so iconic and so good that you're going to be compared to them if you do their music, and you're going to lose every time because they were once in a generation type of, artist. So if you try to sing a song like Patsy Cline, that's going to be an epic fail for you. Now, if you take a Patsy Cline song and twist it and make it your own, so it sounds nothing like her version, then you've got something interesting that happens. But when you try to just sort of redo the song, but with your voice on it, but kind of in the same style, I feel like that rarely works. It's some songs are, I mean, there are just certain songs that people, we know how to rock, my band, and, we're very aggressive. We're very tight. We're what a good rock blues band should be. We're in your face. And I'm as an entertainer, when it comes to the live show, I'm a sprinter, not a marathon runner. In other words, what I'm saying is, I ain't going to play for 4 hours. I'm going to play for an hour and a half, and I'm going to leave my guts on the stage. And then I'm exhausted. And so, my point is that, a lot of people want to hear us do Led Zeppelin stuff. And it's really, most of the songs that they do is like, we could play them, but Led Zeppelin is so iconic and is full of so many musicians that were unique and just a once in a generation kind of thing that I don't really want to touch any of that stuff. Led Zeppelin has 2 blues songs, Since I've Been Loving You and Dazed and Confused. And we can take those and blues them up enough in our own way that those work for us. But outside of that, I would never do Black Dog or Stairway to Heaven, or I just wouldn't do it because I'm going to lose.
But that's how I feel about Freebird.
Unless I took Stairway to Heaven and put it in like 7/8 and then started doing some weird stuff to it. Maybe one day I will. Maybe one day I'll twist it and make it where you can't. I do a Wham song, and it's so twisted that you can't recognize it. Like you're like, I know this song, but who is it? And then finally at the end, you're like, oh, it's Wham. But it takes you the whole song to figure it out because I've twisted it so much from the original.
Yeah, I see this. But that's the way it should be to me. Covers are there, like, they're good warm-ups, for a band. And, our band was, I would say 3/4 covers because it was just that's a whole other world and whole other podcast.
You've got art and you've got entertainment, and they're 2 different things.
They are. And I think I like to hear, like, Carrie Underwood sings Guns N' Roses. So I'm like, I want to hear that, man.
Oh, yeah. That's way cool.
eh,
That's exactly what you want to hear.
it, eh. But I want to go check it out. I want to check it out, right? But
I would.
then
I think that would be interesting.
I think she does, and I think she holds her own. But like Miley Cyrus can sing about anybody's stuff and does it well in her thing. But
Yeah. I mean, I've
like
never
she's
been a
got that
huge.
versatile voice that's still
Yeah,
very much her own.
I
But she
really like
knows,
her last record that came out.
hmm,
This was it "Send Myself Flowers" or whatever. That's a pretty good
yeah.
record.
But that's interesting because Bruno Mars has a song just the same, right?
Yeah,
And talk about an inspirational song. That is a self-motivating song. Like
I
I'm
love
moving over.
24 Karat Gold, like that Bruno Mars tune. Wow,
Yeah.
that's
So
that's a party song.
but that's kind of the same as what she, you know, so it's interesting to me about that. But when you look at, covers, like she did Man of Constant Sorrow, like for George Clooney at
Right.
some event. I can't remember what event it was, but I was like, dang, she did a good job. Like she's
Yeah.
done Roy Orbison. Like to me, like you want to talk about inspirational music, just give me Roy Orbison all day long, all night. I'm such a weirdo fan about Roy Orbison. And like, there's just like, I think I could never really make a playlist of inspiring music because it would just be like, do you would like my whole collection? Because
It would be infinite. Yeah, I gotcha.
yeah, it's kind of weird doing this because of that, because it's
Well, we're just
every
dipping the
song.
toe, as it were.
Yeah, because there's so many songs that motivate. There's motivation. Inspiration to me is a little bit different than motivation.
Yeah,
Inspiration is to edge you out of whatever and give you hope. Motivation is where you take hope and make it reality, right? Does that
yeah,
make sense? It's like it
yeah.
comes
That
second.
makes total sense to me. Sure.
Yeah. And then you need to go into cruise control and really kick some butt. And
Yeah.
then you have those songs. So I think we're really talking, yeah, so, when you go to church, I don't care where you go to a church, man, I just listen because that is more so even with people can't sing it proper or whatever. But man, gospel music, that's why Tina Turner is just, I think, and Aretha Franklin. I mean,
No,
their
Ruth is the
voices,
best.
come on with that. I mean,
Yeah.
it came from gospel roots, and you'll hear
Yeah.
like a lot of good singers
Well,
come from that.
So did Elvis. Elvis came from the church.
Yeah. Hey, listen, did he have an affair with Anne Margaret?
I have
I
no
don't,
idea.
I keep seeing all these things about him and Anne Margaret going, what's going on?
I do not know the answer to that question.
Yeah, that's
I
not,
never heard that.
see, that's a deep, well, that's just me. It's
But
just
I
me
will
doing a
say that he
detour.
seemed to be fairly active, shall we say?
Yeah, I think he was. But he did. Well, okay. So when he sang Walk On, you
Yeah.
know, that is moving. There's,
Hmm.
okay, it's moving music that moves you.
Yeah.
That would be inspiring, right? That would be that.
It's another shade of the inspirational rainbow. There's lots of different flavors of inspiration or affirmation.
Yeah. I think soundtracks for movies do it really well. They make you feel like a
Yeah.
movie without a soundtrack. Huh. The soundtrack. I mean, Nancy and I are always like, okay, listen to the music here. They're doing this, they're doing that. And we actually ruin movies by doing that. That's horrible. But what we do, we listen to like a TV show or like, oh, listen to that. That's why we love British stuff. We watched British comedy last night. Well, it's not supposed to be. Father Brown. Have you watched Father Brown? It's supposed
I
to be
have.
comedy.
Yep. Yeah. That's not comedy, but it's good.
It's funny.
The
Well,
Father Brown mystery you're talking about.
yeah, it was our
Yeah.
first time seeing that.
Yeah, it's good.
Anything British. And Benny Hill. Can we talk about Benny Hill?
Yeah.
Listen, Benny Hill, that it's funny. It's funny. And it's just, we need that. So we need the silly should be part of the moving thing, like you're saying. But a lot of comedians do play instruments. They've got that brain for it, and, Adam Sandler, come on,
Yeah.
so I think, whew, Joey, I think we did good. We've got a huge list that, I don't know what to do about it, but it's big. We got a big playlist and, we'll add some things in there, but, yeah, you got Rise Up, from the Andrea Day.
Yeah.
That's a huge one that is, we were doing a, show about for girls empowerment.
Yeah.
And, everyone picked that song for a playlist. That was like one of the top,
Nice.
you know? So am I allowed to add the Rolling Stones even though Willie doesn't like him?
I think the Rolling Stones. Again, it comes back to what I was talking about earlier. He was listening to what the Rolling Stones were with a preconceived notion, and he wasn't cherishing
Yes,
them for what they are.
I
So
love the Stones.
if you want to talk about Mick Jagger being the greatest vocalist of all time, he's not going to win that award.
Performer.
If you want to talk about him being one of the greatest frontmen of all time, he's going to win. And Mick Jagger doesn't have a pleasing voice, but he's got a wonderful, captivating presence. And I think he's a great singer. I love it. I mean, I love the Stones. I mean, they're not musicians in the sense that they're technically perfect and they are very, we're going to use a 6/9 chord here. We're going to, it's not that, but what it is. And my buddy Chuck Lavelle is their sort of music director and keyboard player. But they really have a lot of heart and a lot of soul, and they're really fantastic. And they draw a lot of their influences from American blues and roots music and R&B.
Muddy Waters, like when they went and played with him, their faces beaming. There's this, you guys, everyone Google it, man. On YouTube, you can watch the Rolling Stones go and play with Muddy Waters, and their faces are like lit up. They're so excited to be there. Like, and Muddy Waters is like, oh man, he's like the king, dude.
I love the Rolling Stones. I mean, they've got some incredible songs.
Loving Cup that's my thing. Loving Cup is.
I love like Tumbling Dice and
Beggar's Banquet.
Only Rock and Roll, and there's, Start Me Up, and there's so many, and Little Red Rooster.
Sympathy for the Devil.
That's a great tune.
I love that song.
Goodbye,
that's one
Ruby
of my
Tuesday.
best.
That's good.
We used to do Can't Always Get What You Want.
That's a great
tune.
If
you try sometime, you might get what you need.
Sometimes you just might find you get what you need. That's right.
Exactly. And there's a
that's affirmational. That's
but Loving Cup.
Yeah.
There's a version with Jack White of Loving Cup.
Interesting.
Well, and I love it with him in there more because he gets the giggles in it. And, cause he's also like starry eyed, I'm with the Stones,
Yeah.
When he was first starting, and there's, you want to talk inspiration. Oh my gosh. Right. So Eddie Vedder, I think, has an incredible voice.
Yeah.
But of like, not necessarily Pearl Jam on the flip side of it. Right. And he has some of his own solo work, and I like that from,
I think he's got 2 solo
Big Heart
albums,
Sun and all that. He does the ukulele and all that stuff, but he played, he did a duet with Yusuf, Cat Stevens, right? Formerly known as Cat Stevens.
Yeah.
And Cat Stevens, to me, when you're talking about inspirational, like, that voice is insane, man. Cat Stevens there is no other Cat Stevens other than our friend Paul, but may he rest in peace. That is a voice and he was so positive, and he still is. He's still alive. And to listen to his music just kind of, it makes you feel good. And I think John Denver does that for a lot of people too.
Oh yeah, John Denver is a great example of feel good. Of music. He just has such an uplifting sound to his voice.
Mm. Well, anyway, have we left anybody out? Yes,
I'm sure we have, but yes, we've covered quite a lot of
the
ground.
Beatles. You put in a lot of Beatles in there.
I put 2 Beatles songs, yeah.
Yes, and you have Elton John, and I do. You have I'm Still Standing, and I put in Tiny Dancer.
Yeah.
Because it was such a big deal. Like, I don't know, it's the movement of it, the movement of the song.
Yeah.
How it builds. And then if you can actually sing those notes, power to y'all, And Joe Cocker, to me, just watching him, Joe Cocker is a singer. Yeah, I think we lost a really good one. No one can cover him. No one can do Joe Cocker,
Yeah.
So there's just play music, y'all. That's the thing. It is play music. Joey, we're excited for a live day. We're going
Me
to
too.
have some awesome musicians on the show. We're doing a whole bunch of things. So everyone stay tuned. I'm going to put a link in the episode notes for Joey's YouTube playlist. Okay. So watch that, and that you'll be able to hear the Alive Day podcast through there, also on bigblendradio.com. But from there too, we're going to have some extras that we're working on. So keep that, follow that playlist. We put that together the other day, and that way you can hear whenever Joey's on the show and follow what he's doing with us. Yeah, what are you doing with us, Joey? But
I have whatever you tell me.
Yeah, whatever you tell me too. This could be dangerous. But we're going to have a really special Alive Day, and everyone, let's all be happy that we're alive, right? So
Absolutely.
Thank you, Joey. Everyone, joeystuckey.com as well is the place to go to. Thanks, Joey.
Thank you, friend.
Thank you for listening to Big Blend Radio. Keep up with our shows at bigblendradio.com.